It is way too early for this shit. But I know, to the back cave! Hello, Shane here, along on 67. I hope it is a nice morning, or afternoon, or whatever time you happen to be watching this video. So I'm just doing a bit of work on my Airfix 148 scale Bf 109 E-1. God, that's a bit of a mouthful in it. So I'm just going to turn on the radio so you can hear me. So, nice early morning, so I just thought I'd get a quick video in. I'm just doing the final touches of my Messerschmitt before I put the decals on and be done with it. So just talk about very quickly what I've done with it. So I don't know how well you can see, but there has been some weathering added to the model, and I'm going to talk you through what I did. So this model has been weathered entirely with oils. I'm quite new to aircraft. I've built a few over the last couple of years, but I haven't dove into it the same level as, say, Freddie or Chris and Alex, or any of the real prolific aircraft modelers. So I kind of pick up bits and pieces, kind of pick up a few aircraft international type things, and just learn from the pros, as it were. So what I did was, once the paint job was done, I gloss coated the entire model, left it for about 24 hours to dry. I actually had to coat this 3 times and kept having to do touch-ups in between because, as I mentioned before in previous videos, Vallejo Model Air is incredibly fragile. It's so fragile. The leading edges of the wings and the control surfaces constantly are getting scratched on me, so they keep touching them up and spraying them with copious amounts of gloss, but it's all good. So once all that was done and a fresh gloss coat was applied, I applied a moderate sludge wash of a wash I've made up of MiG's 502 Octalung Shadow Brown. Applied all over the entire, naturally, over the entire model. Let it sit there for about 10-15 minutes, and then with a piece of paper towel or kitchen roll, depending where you are in the world, I just damped it in white spirit and then just wiped off the excess. But I pulled it in a single direction to simulate the airflow over the airframe. Once that was done, I don't want to be too thick on it because I think sludge washes are one of those things, it's less is more. I personally don't really like sludge washing models too much. I find it very difficult to control, and it can be a bit overpowering, but that's again personal preference. So once that was done, I gloss coated the model again. It's a lot of gloss coating done in this build, I have to say. Let that dry again for 24 hours, and then I did a pin filter, or a dot filter should I say. And the dot filter was done with oils once again, using, I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was titanium white, ivory black and yellow ochre. And for those who don't know what a dot filter is, just in case there's any new modelers watching the channel, I'm sure you're all familiar with it anyway, but just a quick explanation. So what you do is you dampen the surfaces with turpentine or white spirit or terpenoid, and then I use a cocktail stick and I just I do little dots of those colours, and then with a moistened white flat brush I pull in one direction, and it creates little streaking, very subtle. You don't want it to be noticeable, it has to be quite light. You have to remove all but the residue of it basically, and it gives you a really nice effect. Normally you do that on armour modelling on the vertical surfaces, but I do it on the horizontals on aircraft, on the upper surfaces, to simulate grime being pulled and oil being pulled along by the jet stream of the aircraft as it passes through the air. And I also applied it as normal to the vertical surfaces, and what it does is it basically tones down the entire model. I didn't do it to the bottom, so that the bottom only has the oil, the sludge washed, which kind of gives you kind of a grimy streaked effect. I'm going for an aircraft that has been like deployed in the Battle of Britain for a couple of weeks. It's going to be quite grimy from extensive use. That only really there's time only for essential maintenance on the aircraft. So these aircraft get bent up quite a bit when they're in continuous combat operations. Now what I'm doing at the moment is it's kind of because I didn't. It's my first time doing pre-shading, and I've lost most of the pre-shading, so you can't really see the difference between the panel lines. So I'm actually taking, this is my first time using this technique. I was actually going to do panel washes with oils to make the panels pop, but I actually seen in a couple of articles guys use graphite pencils like these type and just run them along, and you get great control. If you go over the line, just use the eraser and rub it off. It's a nice little technique. I've done it to the bottom panel lines here on the wings. I do a little bit clean up here and there, nice and neat. So it takes a little while. You take your time with this, and I've begun to add it to this wing here. I don't know how well you can see it, but I'll do, like in the final reveal it should be very apparent. So I'm just going to keep working on this. So the internet has been alive with nerd rage following the release of the Episode 7 Force Awakens teaser, which, you know what, I like Star Wars, so I was quite interested to see. But I found it kind of curious how many people lost their shit when they saw the clip of the Sith drawing his lightsaber and it had a crossguard, and they're like, oh, this is blah, 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 you know, this is going to cut him in two and blah blah blah, and all this kind of. It was kind of surprising to see that, like, if there's any change done to something, people generally don't like it. And I thought it was quite a cool thing to see a different design of saber, you know. Like, I'm not really into the whole like science behind Star Wars, as in, like, you know, the fictional science of how everything works, because like that's kind of too much for me. But they're kind of saying, oh, the crossguard, which is made out of, like, it's basically two mini projectors that create like a lightsaber crossguard, if you will, at the top of the hilt of his lightsaber, and they're like, oh, that's going to cut him in two and all this. But it's like, as many of the guys like Scal and Matt had made points that, well, anyone who's done like He-Man and all them, like the European martial, or historical European martial arts, I think, He-Man, yeah, that they were saying, like, when was the last time you saw someone who uses a sword catch themselves on their crossguard? And the reality is it doesn't happen, because they're trained with that weapon for extended periods of time, so they know how to handle it, they know to keep it away from themselves. And if that was the real logic, that, oh, if it's too close they'll catch themselves, well, that means half of the lightsaber moves in the movies will end up killing the user, because they put the saber's blade, if you will, so close to their person. And bear in mind, this is it's a blowtorch, basically, you get me. It's a plasma cutter, so it's going to obviously emit heat. So if you in using that theory, if you like pass your saber that close to yourself, well, then you're going to probably self-combust. So I thought it was kind of funny. But either way, it should be interesting to see what to do with the franchise now. And it will be good, because George Lucas isn't writing the script. Because as much as he's a good visual director, he's not really the greatest of writers. Do you know what I mean? And maybe we'll actually see, because the stormtroopers have had a bit of a new imagining in their uniforms and their helmets, so they might actually be able to hit something now. I couldn't get over that, the fact that they actually wrote that in as canon, that when they asked Lucas, why don't the stormtroopers ever shoot anyone? Oh, they can't see their targets because their helmets are very poorly made. I kind of have to ask myself, how is like the best military in this supposed galaxy, who's conquered all of the known galaxy, done so with equipment that is so poorly designed that they can't actually see their targets? I just think it's just that he didn't want to admit that his script was ridiculously biased towards the good guys, you know. Very rarely do you see any like the stormtroopers actually kill guys, unless, well, at the start of the first episode when like they're storming the ship and they just light everyone up, and that's kind of cool. But that's kind of the first and last time you see them do anything. And yeah, somehow the clone troopers are all like super accurate because they're good guys back then, and their helmets are almost identical. So yeah, kind of lots of little funny quirks in Star Wars, I have to say. Okay, my nerd rage is abated so much. So, you can see there, I'm kind of picking out all the panel lines. It's alright, it's a little bit too stark, but sure, we're learning, aren't we? So, might not use this again in any other projects, but I kind of like it just for the convenience of it. Just using the pencil rather than an ink wash or an oil wash trying to do a panel, trying to pick out the panels, because it can be kind of tricky. And I'm pretty sure the metallic sheen or shine will disappear once I put another gloss coat over in preparation for the decals or decals, depending which way you want to say it. So I've ordered some nice aftermarket decals that will allow me to model the aircraft with the camo as is. So you have the blank RLM 65 on the sides, or on the fuselage sides, and on the upper surfaces you have your splinter cam. So I think it was an Eagle Cowl decal set that allowed you to model several E-1s flown by a German ace. I just can't think of his name. I didn't really buy it for him, I bought it because it was the only E1 with this type camo scheme I could find at the time, and I kind of want my aircraft to be as accurate as possible, you know. So, but I will be probably picking up one or two more of these. They're nice kits, they're relatively cheap. I also have the masks for doing muscle, so I believe it's more relevant to tropical variants than the variants that flew over Europe. So I'll probably be doing a North Africa themed Bf 109. I think it's one of the later E series. So that'll be an interesting little project. I also have a display base made up for this as well. So you can kind of see how things kind of pop out. So it's just a quick little solution to trying to denote the panel lines. It just adds a little bit of interest to the model. Makes it a little bit toyish. That's kind of my thoughts on it. But I'm sure it'll look good once I put a few coats of varnish over and take the sheen off it. I also managed to track down the stenciling guide for this because I lost mine, so I went online and actually found a kit review that someone had taken detailed photos of the decal callouts, and I'm going to use them, so just have them saved onto my computer. So that should that's what stalled out this build actually for so long. Well, partly because I kind of lost interest in it after Andy's mishap with his kit. I kind of didn't really want to touch it for some fact, you know, it's kind of a group build, and I kind of went, kind of sucked having to finish on my own. But sure, if these things happen, you know, sometimes we do things and things don't go our way, in the sense that products react not the way we want, and that's just kind of the thing about model making, is we don't always know how things will go, you know. It's like I believe a varnish or a primer reacted quite negatively on his Bf 109, and it just ruined, and he put a lot of work into his model, and it was kind of a shame because the knowledge he has of the Bf 109 would have made it for a very, very enjoyable project for the two of us. But I'm sure the two of us will come back to the BF 109 group build maybe sometime in the future. You know, I haven't really discussed it with him, but I think he doesn't want to touch one for a little while. So, so whenever the trauma, he gets over the trauma of the last BF 109, we might do another one again together. But it's just the way it goes, you know. It's all part of the hobby. Though it can be annoying things. Like I've lost models at the end as well, where things have gone wrong, or that we all have that one model that we built that has a place of sheer and utter hatred in our hearts. And I have one such kit that I bought as a gift for someone. And like the person who was bought for will recognise it immediately, because I know they watch my channel every now and then. But I bought Revell 1/72nd scale space shuttle as a gift, as a Christmas gift or a birthday gift. Kind of wanted something special. I was going to make a big tripped out base for it, even go online and buy the Velcro shoulder patches the astronauts would have worn, and like have it on display base for them. And I was really excited about it. They were really excited about it, and the kit was a piece of garbage. I've never seen it. Like, I was actually very shocked that Revell would build, like, even produce a kit to this. Like, but I suppose it's just the nature of it. It might have been just a once-off, or the mold might have. But literally, what happened was the mold had slipped. So you think of the way the kind of almost elliptical shape of a space shuttle's cross section, and the misalignment was about 3 or 4 mil in places. So regardless how much and the more I sanded, it was all raised detail too for some reason. So the more I sanded, the more detail I lost. And literally that model is sitting on a shelf out in the exposed part of my shed. I really want to blow it up one of these days because I just hate it. And I got in trouble for that too, because the person was so disappointed. They got a bit annoyed at me for not persevering with it. And it's just like, well, it's kind of my fucking hobby, like, but you know what I mean. But I can understand too, because they were excited, but it did create a little bit of fighting. Trying to explain it, it's like I can't build a kit that doesn't want to be built. But yeah, so we all have that kit that just kind of broke our hearts to the point where we kind of didn't build the model for a couple of weeks after it, because we just didn't. We needed time to heal. Yeah, so. Now, how long have you been listening to me? Alright, I'll call this video quits in a few minutes. So, also I'm trying out a new angle. Because I'm left-handed, I have a tendency to keep bumping the camera when it's set up on this side of the table. So I've put it onto my right side now, and I have none of my tools bar my paintbrushes are on this side. Oh. So it should really kind of make it a bit easier for you to see what I'm doing. So there you have it, this nice little pencil tech tip here. Tell me what you think of it actually. I'm pretty happy with it myself. I think it looks kind of cool. And just before I let you go, because you've listened to me babble about pointless shite for the last 18 minutes, I'd imagine, which you're awfully good for doing, lads. I made a small base, display base as well, which is like just a picture frame, very similar to the tutorial that Carlos Mendez put up on his channel. If you haven't, please check it out. Go over to his channel and check it out. He showed how to do a wonderful diorama base just using a cheap picture frame as the edging. Now there's no real kind of like groundwork in this whatsoever. There's no real terrascaping at all in this. Just for some fact being these operated off grass fields, and they'd be generally quite flat. So I just sprayed the actual like MDF base brown, a couple of earth shades, and then just put some static grass of different shades and a few little grass tufts. So the aircraft would sit as so, and it would just be a nice little display for it. And I might in time maybe pick up a pilot and have him standing near his aircraft. Well, there's actually a pilot inside it, so I keep forgetting to actually have the pilot model inside the aircraft. So maybe he's getting ready for a mission, he's just kicking up his engine. So thanks for watching. I'm also, just before I let you go, I'm also terrified what's going to happen when I remove these masks. I made these myself and I'm not entirely confident that they covered everything. So we'll see what happens, but hey, we live and learn. So thank you for watching, stay safe, have a good morning, have a productive day as you always say, and watch out for those buses, because it'll be Christmas now. Christmas is almost upon us, so we must watch out for them buses, because those bus drivers be crazy, yo. Unless you're a bus driver and then keep up the good work. So anyway, I'm in a bit of a weird mood today. As you see, the crazy Irishman is at it again. And I can't stop talking. Right, I'm going. I see. Bye bye. Stay safe.